few months have been quite exciting for Ford. Of course, they have not launched a new vehicle, but they have been busy building a new family of engines and updating its entry-level vehicles. And now it is time for the Aspire to get its midlife makeover. And that's the car we have with us here today. It may not look very new though, since we already knew what was coming thanks to the Ford Freestyle and the facelift that was given to the Figo hatchback, which means it gets the same new detailing around the fog lamps as the Freestyle, albeit with some chrome treatment. The headlights have a revised detailing too, but I believe a smoked effect like the one we had on the Figo S would have looked more sportier to go with the Aston Martin-like grille. The taillights look pretty much the same as the outgoing car, but the bumper now gets a black strip on the lower edge for protection against stone chips. It also creates a better contrast on the lighter colors of the Aspire compared to the signature maroon that you see here. Also on offer is a new 16-spoke alloy wheel design should you choose the top-end trims. And the design is pretty neutral in my opinion. Breathing some fresh air into the cabin is a new infotainment system which now sits on top of the dashboard in line with the instrumentation, so you don't have to take your eyes off the road often to see it or read it. It's a layout that we've seen on a lot of new Ford vehicles and it makes its way into the Aspire as well. This infotainment system gets a new Sync 3 operating system, which means it has smartphone connectivity now, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It also gets its own set of applications, which I think is a good system and a good feature to have. I've always liked the overall fit and finish of the cabin of the Aspire. It always has had a premium feel to it. In fact, it is one of the most premium cabins in this particular segment and doesn't change with the Aspire even with the new vehicles or the new entrants in this particular segment. The small attention to details like this little gloss finish that you have for the door locks or the matching gloss finish you have for other inserts here and the black and beige combination, I think it all just looks very nice, very refreshing.
The seats in the Aspire are quite comfortable and the rear bench is also quite roomy. Its compact sedan width is only good for 2 adults and a kid though. All seats get adjustable headrests, which is a safer way to go than some of its rivals.
On the topic of safety, the Aspire pulls Ford's signature trick from its hat, which means it secures the cabin with up to 6 airbags, but only on the range-topping Titanium Plus trim. Dual airbags, ABS, that's a standard fit across the range, and should you choose the automatic variant, you also get electronic stability program, traction control, and hill launch assist.
Moving to the drivetrain, the Aspire lets you choose from quite a few options depending on your pocket or need. At the entry point is a 1.2-litre 3-cylinder petrol followed by the frugal 1.5-litre 4-cylinder diesel, both of which come with a manual transmission.
Let us begin with the 1.2-litre petrol, which belongs to the new Dragon family of engines. Now you've already heard about it, you've already heard us talk about it, we've sampled it in the Ford Freestyle, and like in the Freestyle, even in the Aspire it puts out about 96 PS of power and 120 Newton meters of torque. And like in the Freestyle, it is surprisingly good to drive and quite contrary to what its specs would otherwise suggest.
The previous petrol engine that it replaces was based on the first generation Figo's mill, and quite frankly, it was a bit of a letdown in terms of its refinement levels and fuel economy. The new 1.2-litre Dragon fixes the refinement bit, and Ford claims it will also be more fuel efficient.
We'll validate that with a road test, but the engine isn't very impressive with its fuel economy, at least in the Freestyle, and I don't think things are going to change much with the Aspire either. But like I said, we'll validate that with a road test. For a 3-cylinder engine, it's quite refined and it sounds quite good too. Quite unusual for a 3-cylinder motor which has that annoying thrum which is inherent to most 3-cylinder engines. This one doesn't get it. It sounds quite throaty, it sounds quite nice. It's quite a free revving engine. It's got a good low-end grunt, it's got a good mid-range pull as well. So it's quite delightful to drive in the city.
It does take a downshift to pull overtakes at highway speeds though, highlighting its relatively weaker top end. On the highway, it cruises at 100 km an hour at about 2,500 RPM, which means it runs marginally more relaxed than its counterpart in the Freestyle, which needs about 500 revs more. That is down to the different gearing between the two vehicles. There's a 1.5-litre 3-cylinder petrol on offer too, which comes exclusively with an automatic transmission, but we didn't have one on our invitational drive, so that is a story for another day. For the diesel variant, the Aspire doesn't get any new engine. It continues to use the same 1.5-litre 100 PS 215 Nm 4-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine that has been doing duty in the previous Aspire.
Truth be told, I'm glad it lives. It's a driver's delight for an oil burner. There seems to be like a virtual power band, a second power band that kicks in at about 120 kilometers an hour when you're driving in top gear. That's the kind of zone where other compact sedans start losing breath, start screaming, start guzzling fuel. The diesel Aspire doesn't do any of that.
In our previous tests, the Aspire diesel was one of the most fuel-efficient cars in the segment, delivering an economy of over 25 kilometers to a litre on the highway and 15 kilometers to a litre in the city. Even with the likes of the Amaze claiming better figures now, the Aspire's numbers are respectable for the kind of performance that this engine offers. As mentioned, both the engines are mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox, and I particularly like the new gearbox on the diesel variant. The gearbox is lighter and it slots more confidently and with short throws and likable clicks between shifts. The clutch pedal travel is still as long as the outgoing unit, but the clutch engagement is earlier than before, so you don't have to keep mashing the pedal all the way in bumper-to-bumper traffic. Going by how good the Aspire diesel's highway manners are, I would have liked a dead pedal to rest my left foot on. I'd complain about the brakes being too bitey on the outgoing car. Ford agrees, and they have indeed fixed that on the updated model with a more progressive braking. It is complemented by a decent grip from the tires, which are now 15 inches on the range topper.
The Aspire is easily one of the most fun to drive cars in the compact sedan segment, and that cannot be attributed to the engine alone. The steering setup, the suspension setup, it's tuned in typical Ford fashion, precise feedback and taut handling dynamics. Now, the steering, some people might want to classify it as a bit too stiff, but the same can't be said about the suspension because it isn't. The ride quality is actually quite supple.
When the Aspire was conceived, the engineers at Ford would have liked a slightly stiffer suspension setup for a flatter ride through corners, but they went with a softer setup instead, giving in to consumer demand for a comfier ride. That said, it is still quite a likable package for the enthusiast as well as the casual driver, and that is the balance that I really like.
When the Aspire first came out, it was a little late to the compact sedan party. But that also allowed it to study the consumer behavior and bring along safety and convenience goodies that actually made it a strong value for money proposition. Time has passed, new players have entered the segment, some of the compact sedans have even changed generations. But the Aspire, with its pricing and its kit, still remains quite a good value for money offering. And that facet is highlighted further when you realize that most of the sales for the Aspire actually come in the Titanium and the Titanium Plus trims, which means that people who are looking to buy this car are actually looking for better safety, better convenience and better comfort. And in all those things, in that regard, this car with its midlife update and new kit that it offers now has just become a much stronger proposition.